everyone, Tiffany Bosch here, President and CEO of the Sylvania Chamber, and we're here with our next episode of Through the Branches, the Sylvania Chamber podcast. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Dustin Dale.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I'm going to start
Stop
calling
that.
you that now. It's Dustin Dale here, founder and CEO of Beyond the Horizon Consulting and Dustin Dale motivational speaker. And I'm excited for today's episode because it's going to really hit a deep meaning to appreciation of life and community appreciation. And so I'm not going to hold the mic up. I want to send it over to our awesome guest today and have him dive right in.
Hi, I'm Ash Lemons. I'm from the Ability Center of Greater Toledo. I've been with the Ability Center since July of 2002. Glad to be here.
It's almost 22 years of doing. So what is your main role with the Ability Center?
My main role today is I'm the Associate Director. It took a while to build up to that. I started at the bottom 22 years ago and just worked my way up.
If you don't mind me asking, what does bottom mean? I mean, did you intern? Did you start by?
Believe it or not, I started, and I tell everyone this that works there, I started at 20 hours a week, part-time, no benefits. And it was a place that I really felt strongly about. I just asked if I could work more hours, and things worked out over the years.
Okay. Now, I think, can you share a little bit for those who are listening and watching that might not know, what is the Ability Center of Greater Toledo?
The Ability Center of Greater Toledo is an organization that's been around since 1920. It was started by the Toledo Rotary, and it works to help people with disabilities of all ages. And we're really about helping people towards their goals of independence, helping them seek out their passions in life, and we're really, these days, we're about changing perceptions of the public.
Mm-hmm. So, Dustin, you're smiling. When you smile, I know you have a question.
Good
throw it out there.
Yeah. No, I think, so as I was sharing before we got on here, my wife is an occupational therapist, does pediatric disabilities for the last 8 years. And one of the things you talked about was changing the norm, right? And so what are some things you've seen through 22 years, right? I mean, you've almost been through multiple changes in culture and community involvement. What's been maybe one or two highlights of your career that you've seen with the Ability Center that's just super cool?
Actually, something I talk about all the time with new folks is the change in perception of what people with disabilities are capable of. And that's one of the biggest things that I think, especially from the advocacy perspective, when you're trying to do work with healthcare, transportation, housing, public access. The community today that we live in is definitely different than the community we had in the early 2000s, and for the better.
Yeah, love that. So when you think of Toledo, for example, what are, again, maybe just some high-level nuggets, like what are some cool things you've seen here in Toledo that has been awesome?
Fifth Third Field,
yeah.
Huntington Center, Savage Arena, all the metro parks that we have. Ability Center has been right there in the process, working with all the representatives from those organizations, the architects, the developers, all the key people at these organizations over the years, who may not still be at those organizations, but have gone on to other organizations like City of Toledo.
Yeah.
And so we have a ton of partners out there. And there's been a lot of really good things happen in Toledo. And we've gotten national recognition. I believe Fifth Third Field is one of the best, or the best minor league baseball park in the country.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
And you work with these partners, Fifth Third Field, City of Toledo, and you have worked currently with the city of Sylvania, because we're about to go underway some construction. So you have team members working on that and helping influence that transportation and the streetscape outline, correct?
That's correct. Our advocacy department, I was at a couple meetings with them, but we've given a lot of input on the design. We're hoping that the whole downtown is going to become much more accessible, user-friendly for everyone.
And very high level, what does that mean?
It means that you don't have to walk around the entire block to get into an establishment that you're looking to eat at or do business with. You can walk right through the front door, just like everyone else.
Okay. Sidewalks aren't
exactly
different. materials,
Yes.
zero
Yes.
steps,
Yeah.
Wider doorways, 0 steps,
Yeah.
and parking could be a challenge. There's going to be some parking, but just making it more user friendly for everyone. I think that's one thing to always remember is I think when you have smaller kids and you have strollers, sometimes you start to become more aware
Mm-hmm.
of what a step can do as far as creating a barrier for people. You can't really hop. If you ever used a wheelchair, tried one out, you gain a new appreciation of how difficult it is to jump even a half-inch rise. It takes a lot of strength.
Yes. I have 2 kids at home. Both are under 3. And you were talking about strollers. We just got a wagon now to try to combat some of the sidewalks and stuff. And the wagon's got 4-wheel drive now.
It's
So
got the big knobby tires.
Yeah. So no, it's very true. And I know my wife talks a lot about that too, with just, again, it's like some of those things that you just don't think about until you break a leg, you break an arm, you have something that restricts movement, and then you really see a whole new world.
Well, in 70% of all people have a disability at one point in time. I'm going to guess most people on this panel or in the room have played sports. I know you have.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there was a time when you might have twisted an ankle or
Broke foot.
jammed a finger really good.
Broken tailbone.
Broken tailbone for you?
Yeah, I was a wrestler.
I fractured both arms in a baseball rundown.
You win.
Yeah, so you learn that those things can become barriers, and you find different ways. It was difficult the first day back at school with both arms in wraps, full wraps with a splint, trying to carry my books. So try getting through a door with, automatic doors are great.
They are. Yes, they are. Toledo Zoo, I know they're doing a lot more with the automatic doors. We use them all the time with a stroller because you got to reach like 6 feet to get the handle. So
absolutely,
it's very helpful.
Yep.
So one thing from community leadership, what have you seen from the leaders in Toledo and Sylvania and local areas? How has that relationship happened? How's it formed, and what's the impact?
The relationships are formed somewhat organically. I've had a great relationship with Area Office on Aging throughout my career. And we've formed some really good relationships with the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Lucas County Veteran Services Office, a lot of the senior centers, the DD boards, Metro Parks. I could go on and on. Mercy Hospital and ProMedica. There's a lot of good folks. They're very driven. This community. I was in the military for 8 years. Traveled the country some, and I always say some of the best and brightest are right here in Ohio. A lot of good leadership here.
Very cool. Thank you for your service, by the way.
Oh,
I appreciate that. Yeah,
it was a fun time.
That's
Pretty
funny.
much the entire 90s.
Entire 90s?
Entire
Okay.
90s. Great music.
Yes, that was the best
Great
time to be in. Was it Army?
Air Force.
Air Force? Okay, I won't hold that against you too much.
Oh, I'm talking to an Army guy?
No, my whole family was. I was
Okay.
planning on joining the Army 2 days and didn't enlist, so I still appreciate you. Yes. Very cool.
So you talked about advocacy and what all that group is doing. What other programs does the Ability Center offer? No, there's a lot.
There's a lot
There is
to
a
unpack.
lot.
Yeah.
And in fact, anyone who joins our organization is kind of overwhelmed with information. It takes a while. It took me a while to learn all of our programs. And I can tell you we're always evolving. But some of the main programs at the Ability Center that have been there since I've been there, our home accessibility program. That's been there, for years. Our durable medical equipment program has been there since the inception of the Ability Center. And so home modifications, ramps, low-rise steps, handrails, grab bars, stair lifts, those are things that we've been doing for quite a long time. I know since I've been here, we're up to close to 3,000 projects or households that we've served over the last 20 years in Northwest Ohio. Durable medical equipment, we get a lot of referrals from ProMedica, home health care providers, Mercy Hospital, all the senior centers, the Area Office on Aging, insurance company. We get a lot of referrals for durable medical equipment. We handed out, I think, 3,500 pieces last year.
And that's all free.
That is absolutely all free. And the really cool thing about it is a lot of it's being paid forward. So a lot of it is generated from the generosity of the local community. I like analytics. And so we look at a lot of the data. We track, where's stuff coming from, where's stuff going. We have a very generous community, especially in the Sylvania area. And they're given to these programs. When somebody doesn't need a piece of equipment anymore, they bring it to us, sanitize it, bench check it, make sure it's serviceable, it's not going to break on somebody.
Yep.
And we put it back in our system, put it back in inventory, and we get it out the door. And speaking of that, we actually do some delivery now too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
very cool.
It's simple on everybody. Or you might have an injury, you might have had horrible luck with whatever the situation. So you try to make it a little bit easier for everybody. With the delivery, it's free, your services.
Yeah, that's especially true. And, every week in our community, sometimes there's accidents that happen on the roads or bounce houses or, wherever you're.
You sound like my insurance guy for my festivals. I'm like, of course we're having bounce houses. Why not? But they're injury prone.
There's injuries.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, it happens. And sometimes the severity is greater than other times.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're using an e-scooter and some crutches or a walker for a little bit, maybe after a surgery or a small minor accident. And then other times your life is completely changed.
Yeah.
And that's a period of time when people can come to us and they can get connected. We can help them tremendously, and not just give them one thing. We'll help them in many ways. They can talk to one of our navigators. They're kind of like our intake specialists.
Okay.
And they'll help them. They'll walk them through.
Okay. And I've noticed on social media, you guys are promoting, some of that toddler time in there too. Is that open for everyone?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something you can kind of share more about, just creating that awareness.
Musically Me, that's fun.
Yeah.
It's what I started at the Ability Center back in the days when Camp Cricket was around, and there was a camp during the summer, and it was an inclusive camp. In fact, my oldest son went to that camp, and just recently we started having programming again for kids. We had kind of a hiatus there for a while, but we're back.
Okay.
And we're doing programming for 0 through 12 families. And one of them's Musically Me. It's great because we hear all the kids, we hear the families come in, we hear the teacher leading the session and singing, and it's kind of uplifting and it's fun. People love it.
Yeah. And is that for everyone, or is it for those families with a person with disabilities?
No, it's inclusive.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Jennifer runs that program at the Ability Center. But if anyone ever has any questions about our programming, they can take a look on our website, abilitycenter.org.
Yeah.
We have a Facebook page. We post a lot of stuff all the time. The Ability Center.
Okay.
Give us a call.
You guys, the amount of knowledge that you offer just through your website alone is, I've had questions on things. And you can go on there, you can find it. It's simple, it's easy, and then always, pick up the phone. I don't know how many times I've emailed you with questions of like, hey, so you guys really are so community driven, and you're quick, you're responsive. I'm going to say you make it simple. You make it simple to get the answers that people and businesses are looking for.
We appreciate it, and we want to continue to be a resource for businesses. I know our advocacy department is working on a project right now. And we're trying to make it to where there's kind of like a self-guided, how do you become disability friendly? So that's through a grant, I believe, through the Ohio Bar Foundation. Yeah.
Can we talk about my favorite program?
What's dogs? Yes.
I was waiting for that to call. I was like, what is this?
I had to wait because I'm like, okay, let's get through all the
chomping at the bit over there. Yeah.
But the puppies. So the puppies are a huge feature for the Ability Center.
Yeah,
a huge program.
The dogs are, I tell you what, I didn't know much about the dog program until about 10 years ago. and now I know it intimately, like every detail of how it operates. But we are actually, and a lot of people don't know this, but we breed and train these dogs, and it takes about 18 months. It's a long process, and without the volunteers, we have 151 volunteers right now in the community. Again, we have a lot of support from the Toledo region, but we have 151 volunteers that helps foster and raise these dogs. They bring them into class every week, and our trainers work with them. And at the end of that year and a half, these dogs are going to be placed with someone as a service dog, or skilled companion, or most interesting thing right now that I believe is we are placing dogs in schools. So we have 34 schools that we're in, school facility dogs. And so I actually have the entire list with me in case you ask me a question. Are they in this school? I'm like, okay, let me check.
Tiffany's going back to school.
Well, I know they're in a few Sylvania schools, and Highland Elementary is getting one here soon.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And obviously schools, there's a lot of talk right now about mental health. So bringing a dog in there.
Yeah.
Is that for that purpose? Or
Yeah, they were actually used when there was an incident, I believe it was last fall at Whitmer.
Okay.
During a football game.
Oh, yeah.
We heard that they had used dogs shortly after that from their schools. It was very, very beneficial. One of the really interesting things that I've been hearing from the teachers, every year we have all the teachers come in. I shouldn't call it teachers, they're handlers. Yeah. So each school has a set of handlers. They're typically counselors or principals, or in some cases superintendents.
Okay.
And they go home with the dog. The dogs belong to the school. They're in service about 8 years. And then some of the benefits I've heard is that kids who are afraid to read in front of other kids are starting to read better. And why that is if you think about being in second grade, there's a whole room looking at you, right? Well, the teachers have found that if they have the student read to the dog, the dog's attentive, it has no judgment, and it really relaxes the student, calms the student, and they're gaining that belief in themselves. I believe that's through the dog.
Yeah,
it's huge. I wish I had that. Those programs around me even back when I was a kid. So I had a reading disability. I didn't find out I was dyslexic till third grade. All my papers were horrible, and I was put into back then they call them special reading classes, and they would give you certain like stuffed toys and stuff to try to calm you down so you could read, motivate. They actually gave us Cheez-Its to motivate us, but I don't want to share that. This was 90s. But point being is I remember in third grade that anxious feeling, and I had a speech issue too, a stuttering problem, still have it a little bit with S's with multiple words. But just hearing this, it kind of makes me feel good, that warm heart, like, cool, society has seen a need and to fix that. And so it's really cool you guys are leading that and taking that charge. One question I have is, earlier you talked about Toledo Rotary. So I know with Toledo Rotary, they're a part with Mesa, right? Or Mesa, however, depending on which part of Northwest Ohio you're from, Mesa. So working with that program, I'm assuming you guys get an influx of equipment, and then obviously they take equipment and send it to other areas. Is that part of your guys' programs too?
That's correct.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, medical equipment supplies and abroad out of Fostoria. It's a Toledo Rotary project as well. And it was probably about 15 years ago I saw this truck pull up, and I saw on the side it said Mesa, and I'm like, is that the folks out of Fostoria that are helping people overseas? And they're like, yeah. And we've toured Mesa.
I was getting ready to ask that if you got to see it.
Yeah,
it's really cool
it's a
inside.
Warehouse, nice big warehouse, and they're helping us too. So a lot of times what we're doing is we're tracking our inventory. We're discovering what is it that people want, because I don't want to just hand out stuff that we get, because that might not be what people need. I want to give people what they're looking for, and sometimes we don't always get those donations. But if we get grants, we'll just buy them. But on the other side, Mesa has been a good, like a quid pro quo. They'll bring stuff up that we need, and we'll give them what they call gaylords. They're big giant cardboard boxes that go on. They're kind of like a shipping container, and we'll fill those up with things that I've heard are, very much needed in Central America and Eastern Europe.
Very cool. I'm glad you got a partnership with them. That's one thing I like about being a Rotarian is the work that they do. So that's cool to hear you're a part of that.
Yeah, and they help veterans as well. They have a veteran focus as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So relatively recently, in the last few years, I'm going to jump to some kind of leadership questions. There's been new leadership. Tim previously was there, did a phenomenal job for 20 plus years. Stuart James is now he's the now executive director. How have you noticed any change, the team structure, how has he handled that? Coming in new to the role, new to the community, and leading that charge?
We haven't really changed. Some of our core programming is still there. What we're trying to do is do more. And we're also trying to do more with the younger folks, the 0 through 12, the families, getting to people as soon as we can to help change those perceptions. And that's what Stuart brought with him was he really wanted folks to think differently about people with disabilities, to have a different perception of what people are capable of and what possibilities might lie ahead. And so working with folks, families, as young, when they have kids, as young as you can, helps form that mindset. And also schools. So we're working with schools on a project called DREAM, which is disability. I'm going to have to cheat here. Disability representation, education, and awareness in the media. It's a set of 13 books, and over 150. It's in over 150 classrooms in Northwest Ohio. So we have a lot of participation with the school systems. And these books, like here's a title, Just Ask, or another title's Looking Out for Sarah. And they're books about people with disabilities, and they're helping students understand disability from a different perspective.
So just more, and I like to
Just
think
more,
differently. I know you guys have a lot of think differently. You have a lot of promo around that. I see T-shirts out and about and sweatshirts and stuff like that, and just getting that awareness. I'm going to touch a little bit on with our employers. How can we think differently to hire, train customers, anything along those lines? Can you shed any light on that? From a business sense?
From a business sense, there's a lot of information on the Ohio Department, actually opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities. Okay. It's a state agency, and they have a ton of information about the benefits of hiring people with disabilities, as well as how to accommodate, if there are accommodations that are needed. A lot of times it's just changes in policy or a procedure. A lot of accommodations cost less than $1,000. But there are a tremendous amount of benefits to include people with disabilities in your workforce. But that's a great resource.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that the chamber has been recently hiring, and I've had interviews, and I was able to do them all virtually. And I know between our discussion, the one thing that I just put in there, which was super simple, but it was, let me know if you need any accommodations. Like, if the Zoom's not going to work, if there's anything else that I just need to be aware of to make this interview successful for you.
Yes, and for anyone, captioning is great. Yes. You can enable that, activate it.
I wish I would have known that. Yes.
We were holding a training just the other day, a disability awareness experience, and during our presentation, we had a PowerPoint up, and on the top, it was like a scroll bar, and it was just, spelling out everything we were talking about. And a lot of people were paying attention to that. If you can't hear every word we're saying, you can at least see what we said on the screen. And activating that captioning during Zoom meetings is very beneficial.
things I wish I would have known, but that's great. That's a super, I think there's Zoom interviews now and webinars and everything like that. So if you're hosting one of those, be sure to click that on there.
Yep.
Because it's just going to make it, hopefully, life and the process a little bit easier for everyone.
Yep.
Yeah. Dustin, I'm going to throw it to you for some leadership questions for Ash.
Yeah. It was just real quick on the social media, LinkedIn, just not too long ago, actually did auto captions now for all video. So there was a large group that, respectfully took it to the LinkedIn creators and said, hey, there's a lot of people who need these captions. And so just within the last year, just now it's auto caption on there. So definitely a great tool and resource. Thinking about leadership a little bit from your industry, where you're in and what you guys are doing, how is it, and we kind of touched a little bit on how to empower community leaders, right, and stepping in more. What has been some really good leadership lessons you've learned from 22 years, right?
22 years.
22 years. What are some really good leadership lessons you learned from day one to day now? And try to funnel that down into 2 nuggets for me. I'll make it impossible.
People are your most important thing.
Yes.
In any organization.
Thank you. Yes. Yep.
And so, take care of your people. They're what makes the organization. In an organization like ours, it's our community, our volunteers. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. It's, recognizing the human capital is the most important thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, we gotta just sit in that for a second, man. That is so good. You can't get enough companies and people to have the people first mentality, right? Human capital. So that's awesome. You guys are doing that, and especially in the work you do. It's people first, right? It makes sense.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. What would be so we have a lot of young leaders who listen to this podcast, right? We've got a really cool group, a good diverse in age. And so for those individuals who are starting out in their career, how could what the Ability Center does be a good potential fit for somebody who might be looking for a career and who want to help people, who genuinely have a compassionate heart?
So if they wanted to come work at the Ability Center, there are a ton of different avenues you can go, because our departments are pretty highly specialized. If you're a contractor and you want to do carpentry, we have that. If you're a trainer or a teacher, we have people that are doing activities that are working in the schools with dogs or with books, or independent living skills. We have an advocacy team led by an attorney. So if you're in the legal area, that might be something you want to look into, helping change policy, not just locally, but statewide and nationally. We do that.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah.
So your size organization, and if you're allowed, dive into it, from volunteers to actual employees, what does it take to ensure the Ability Center is successful? How many, people does it require?
At minimum, we have 53 employees.
Okay.
There's well over 150 volunteers, but I'd have to include our board, our auxiliary, and all of our partners in the community, which we could name.
Yeah,
we could sit here and name.
Be here a while.
Yeah. And I think that's what's cool about it is we're so well connected with the medical field, the education field, the architectural field, a lot of people, and work with a lot of people daily.
You guys are very well known for such amazing work within Northwest Ohio. So I always just want to say thank you for all you do. One of the things that the Chamber Board had a privilege of participating in was disability awareness experience. So we were able to come in. Did I get that right?
Yes, experience.
Okay, the experience. And you showed how the medical equipment was sanitized, and we talked to the employees there and the team members, and they were so passionate. What is the goal for companies, organizations, leaders coming in to take part in that program?
The goal in that is to be comfortable at the end of the day. Stuart says, before you leave here, you're going to ask any question you ever had. And he really means it. We really want you to ask the questions that you've, been afraid to ask before. Nothing is off the table. It's a great training. It helps people in many ways. And I know you got to play a little basketball.
I did.
Did you make shots?
No.
You did not.
No. I was close, but it was not pretty. It was, yeah. And it was, I mean, so everyone, for the listeners on here, during the training, you have about 20 minutes maybe or so, and you break up in teams, and it's wheelchair basketball. So you are, as a basketball player, you are learning how to play basketball in a completely different format. It's fun. It's that rec feeling, and then you kind of come together as a group afterwards, so you're comfortable asking those questions. And Stuart was there with our group the entire time. I think he played basketball all day with every group that came through there because I think he just likes it.
He does. I think this is the highlight of his day sometimes. It's a definite break from a lot of the work, and it's enjoyable. And he gets to be, involved with the training.
But you're hearing from those individuals also who are on your team, but sharing, how they get to work every day. And, we take it for granted. Earlier today we were talking about parking in Sylvania and how it's simple, it's easy, it's right there. Mm-hmm. You don't think about someone who's unable to drive coming to the office, what they have to go through, the public transportation, which I know TART, I'm going to give them a shout out. They've done a phenomenal job in the Flex program. But what kind of accommodations do they need? And then they say, hey, if I want to drive myself and have this vehicle, it's a house, is how much that vehicle costs. So it's super expensive just for them to get to work. And that's what you guys are working on the advocacy level, I'm assuming, to help with those barriers.
Correct. Our advocacy team worked very tirelessly to get the transportation that we have countywide. So shout out to them for working on that. It took a long time, several years. But people like Lisa, who runs our home mod program, she comes to work every day. She's on time. She's one of the first people there. Often, she's working 24/7, it seems, because she's been there about a year longer than me. She uses public transportation, and without her there, we'd be at a loss. She has so much knowledge, and I think that's what's important for people to understand is that there are people out there that may not be able to work if they don't have the transportation, and those could be some of your most invaluable employees.
Yeah.
We had a lot of programs, especially when I was with Walmart. Again, some of our best employees, came from agency partners, and I loved, the happiness, the attention to detail, and honestly, we encouraged them, use your strengths, use the things you're really great at, and we had individuals, their attention to detail was phenomenal, just phenomenal. And I'm like, if I could have 20 more of you, like this would be awesome. One of the things I do want to ask though is, so just like back in my corporate career, we partnered with agencies. How can the community support you guys? Are there, I'm going to assume like a lot of agencies, there's wish lists. There is, man.
Yes.
Awesome.
Plug.
Great plug. Thank you. You can give us your time volunteering. Money is also something else.
Money's always good.
And we do have an Amazon wish list. We started that up a couple years ago. Our assistance dogs program, I think, it was funny because it was put on our website, and I tested it out. I just asked my wife, I said, hey, can you go on Amazon and see if this works? And so we bought some items for the dogs program, and I asked them the next day. I said, hey, do you show that you're supposed to be getting some deliveries soon? And our director, Stacy, looked at it, and she's like, oh my gosh, somebody bought something, right?
Oh, that's
cool. Yeah, it was us. Yeah. But more people are doing that. And we're also doing that with our durable medical equipment program. So if you're interested in supporting any of our programs, but specifically our durable medical equipment program, as well as our assistance dogs program, we have Amazon wish list. Those are a specific list of needs today. Those just aren't random things. They're actual needs directed by the program managers.
Very cool. Yep. That's important for everybody listening to that who sometimes we hear these podcasts and it's like, today's the day I'm going to make a difference. Today's the day I'm going to step forward. So thank you for sharing that. So again, Amazon wish list. I think most people shop with Amazon. So very easy to use and navigate, but very, very cool.
Yep.
And simple for everyone. You remove that barrier from having to, not that we don't want to support local and shop local, but you remove the barrier from someone going in a vehicle to a store to buy it, to drop it off. It is seamless. They can do it on their lunch break if needed, and they're supporting a great cause in all the options for the wish list.
Yeah, abilitycenter.org, and click on the donate tab, and it should take you right to it.
That's awesome.
Very cool. You ready for our final question?
I am.
There's a final question you didn't know about.
Can I phone a friend?
No.
You'll be good.
I
You
didn't
got
think
this.
about it. I gave you what does leadership mean to you?
It's having a passion for what you do every day, being driven, looking to improve something on a daily or weekly basis. You're always looking to do something that will improve all of what you have control over, and I think you should have that on your mind weekly, not every morning. I think about that on the way to work. What can I do today that's going to help?
Like that.
Very impactful. And more leaders thinking that way. It's very good.
Wow. You've been very insightful, with all of the work, your thoughts on leadership, what all is happening here in Northwest Ohio. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I truly love what the Ability Center has done and what they continue to do. So I encourage everyone to go on their website, to donate, to get involved, be a puppy foster. I won't say my husband's name on the podcast to say, come on. But I think it's great, all of the work that you guys do. So thank you for everything. On behalf of
Thanks for having me.
On behalf of everyone, thank you.
It's been a blast.
Yeah. So, all right, we're going to wrap up today's episode. Thank you, Ash. Thank you, Dustin. And I appreciate your support through Beyond the Horizon Consulting and Aplo Multimedia Group for their producing of our podcast. Thank you. And we will talk to you guys next week.
See y'all soon.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
I did glance down and see the Amazon wish list. I'm like, we got to plug that in.
Cheat sheet.
Yeah.